Hello guys, good morning. Today it's Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, and today we're going to work with Witty reading. Today it's very important information that we have here. It is about equal rights for all, okay? Equal rights for all. All right, let's begin by reading today's agenda. Today's agenda, it's the big question. First, we're going to start what is discrimination? Okay, that's going to be our question for today. And I really hope that you have heard this word before, discrimination. Then we got the key. The key is Rosa Parks against discrimination once again. And I have here a misspelled word. Right, there you go. And then we have the awesome reader story. The awesome reader story, it's going to be related about discrimination as well. It's a very interesting story. It's about two important people, okay, that made history and that changed, okay, part of history in specific countries. I'm going to tell you later on about it. Then we have a video related to discrimination that I really hope that you learn more about it and that we get conscious about what is happening around the world. Then we have the keywords that are related to the learning log pages 68, 69, 70, and page 71. All right, so equal rights. Let's begin with our class. What is discrimination? Have you ever heard of the word discrimination? Very good. Discrimination is when you treat a person unequally. For example, here we have in the line, take a look at the picture. We have many different people there from different cultures, different colors, different hair color, okay? And even different way of being. So, there is only one person elected, okay, from all of the people there, and it has a specific characteristic of the common people in the world, which is white, okay, here. Now, it's as you can tell here, everybody has a different characteristic. As I mentioned, there is a person in a wheelchair, there is a Muslim person, okay, there is an Arabian person, there is an old person there, and they only choose the white person that is there. That would be the model person to choose for a job. So that is discrimination from all of the people that they have, that they have a specific characteristic of saying, well, only this person is going to apply for this job. I don't want the Muslims, I don't want the person in the wheelchair, okay, I do not want the blacks. That is discrimination, when you mistreat somebody, okay, when you're not treating a person equally. All right. Then we have this Witty reading key, which I think is very interesting. I really like Rosa Parks' story, and if you have the chance one day to read it in the homework for well, it's not actually homework anymore, but in my own, if you have the chance to go over a book of Rosa Parks, you will get lots of information about the segregation that they used to live. And now we're going to read Rosa Parks' Witty reading key. I really hope that you learn about it and that you enjoy it. All right, so we're going to read Witty reading Rosa Parks against discrimination. It says no discrimination. Rosa Parks was a woman. Let's read more about her. Rosa Parks against discrimination. Some people mistreat others just because they look different. That is a kind of discrimination. Everybody should be treated equally, regardless of their appearance. Do you know anyone who fights against discrimination? Maybe here in Veracruz, Mexico, discrimination would be in the poor people, in the people that is on the streets. That would be discrimination, that sometimes that people is not allowed to go to luxurious hotels or luxurious restaurants just because they live on the streets, okay, and they're not allowed to be seated in a chair where maybe regular people eats there. Okay, so that would be discrimination here in Mexico. From the late 19th century until 1965, a set of discriminatory laws supported racist treatment towards African Americans in the southern United States. Under the motto separate but equal, the African American citizens endured racial segregation in all public facilities. So African Americans in the southern United States were very, very mistreated. They had lots of discrimination there, okay? And there was lots of racial segregation as well. Their life was not easy back in that time. Places: Lewis Mountain Negro area, coffee shop and cottages, come grounding and picnic ground, and the entrance there. African Americans could not be in restaurants, schools, or parks that were reserved for white people. Yes, that was true. If you were black, you could not be in the same place as white people. For example, if you were black and it was a park only for white people, black people could not go to that park. Now, if you were black and if you go to the same restaurant as white people, you wanted a hamburger, you wanted a pizza or a torta, whatever you wanted, and if you were black at that time, you could not eat or buy in the white people's restaurants. Water: African Americans had to use different restrooms and water fountains. Yes, as you can tell there, it says white woman, colored and colored man. Okay, so only white men, okay, could enter to the bathrooms. Colored men, they were shown that they were in a different bathroom. Okay, the same here, it says colored, as you can see, for colored people, for black people. Okay, they could not drink in the same water fountain as white people did. That was a lot of discrimination. Houses: we want white tenants in our white community. They were not allowed to buy houses in a neighborhood for white residents. It was a neighborhood only for white residents, and no black families could buy in the white community. Okay, so it was a really bad segregation in that part too. Buses, and this is where Rosa Parks comes. The buses: African Americans could not sit in the rows that were reserved for them on the bus. Could only sit there. They also had to give up their seats to white people. So African Americans were only allowed to sit exactly where they were supposed to be seated, and the whites were separated from the black, okay, in the bus. However, an African American woman named Rosa Parks thought that these laws, known as the Jim Crow laws, were wrong, and she decided to fight against them. She worked in a factory and was also a victim of discrimination. Rosa Parks is considered to be the mother of the African American civil rights movement. Do you know what she did for this movement? This woman was very important for the movement. Okay, she did something in specific. Let's watch this video and learn a little bit more about what Rosa Parks did back in the time where there was a lot of segregation everywhere black people used to go.
Rosa Parks takes the bus. Rosa Parks boarded a bus on December 1st, 1955. She was tired after a hard day's work. Fortunately, there were available seats on the bus. She sat in the row reserved for African American people. However, some white passengers got on the bus a few stops later. They wanted to sit down, but there were no seats available. The African American passengers had to give up their seats by law. The driver asked Rosa and the other black passenger to stand up. The man stood up. He wanted to avoid problems. But Rosa remained in her seat. She thought it was unfair to give up her seat because of the color of her skin. The driver insisted, but he could not convince Rosa. The driver had to call the police. Rosa was arrested, but this was not the end of her story. The African American community from Alabama heard about Rosa Parks' arrest and organized a big protest. They stopped taking the bus for almost a year to show their discontent. Finally, the bus restrictions changed in Alabama, African Americans did not have to give up their seats to white people anymore.
Wow, so imagine how important was this action that Rosa Parks did only because she felt tired. She was tired. She was coming from work and she had to give away her seat to a white man. Do you think that's fair? I think that was an unfair situation. And good thing that what she did was a good idea because after that, the bus laws change in Alabama. All right, let's continue. People from all over the United States heard about Rosa Parks and decided to fight against discrimination. Rosa's disobedience on the bus inspired a series of protests all around America called the African American Civil Rights Movement. And yes, they were tired already of all the discrimination, they were tired to be mistreated. In 1963, African Americans organized a big march in Washington, D.C. There, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous speech, I Have a Dream. And as you can remember, there was in last week's Witty reading, we read about Martin Luther King. We mentioned about how important he was for the change in civil rights movement for African American. So this is where everything starts with the help of Rosa Parks' action. All right, in 1967, the Supreme Court banned the law that prohibited marriage between whites and African Americans in Virginia. However, South California amended its constitution until 2000. African Americans were allowed to vote as a result of demonstration in Alabama in 1965. So imagine African Americans were not even allowed to vote in the decisions of their country. So until 1965, yes, they were allowed to vote. Finally, schools started to become integrated in 1954, which meant that everybody could go to the same school regardless of their race and their color. So now all children could receive education. In 1954, it didn't matter if you were Mexican, Black, Hindu, Greeks, Chinese people, everybody could go to the same schools as white people. The African American Civil Rights Movement is a significant event for African citizens. It led to improvements in equality, and it all started with Rosa Parks on the bus. She did not only refuse to give up her seat, she refused to give up her dignity. All right, so now Rosa Parks did a very important thing for discrimination. She changed the laws, okay, with the help of other activists that were participating at that time. Let's read the vocabulary words.
Discrimination, discrimination, discrimination. Neighborhood, neighborhood, neighborhood. Protest, protest, protest. Race, race, race. Seat, seat, seat.
All right, let's continue with the learning log activities now. Attention to the battle for equal rights information here in the Awesome Reader. You guys ready? Let's begin to learn a little bit more about these two people that did a big that change, okay, the history of the world by fighting for equal rights.
The battle for equal rights.
We, the people, no matter our origin, color, age, religion, or disability, deserve to be treated equally. Everyone has rights. In the past, this was not so clear. Thurgood Marshall and Rigoberta Menchú are two clear examples of fighting for equal rights. Thurgood Marshall was a very important African American. He was born in 1908, Baltimore, in Maryland. His father was a waiter. His mother was a teacher. He graduated from high school in 1925. Then he studied at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. After college, Thurgood decided to become a lawyer. A lawyer studies and learns laws. They give people advice and speak for them in court. He could not attend to the University of Maryland because he was African American, so he studied at Howard University. Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood's teacher, said laws needed to change so that people would be equal. People did not have to be discriminated, treated unfairly. Discrimination is treating people unfairly because they are different. Thurgood never forgot how it felt when a school did not want him because of his race. It made him want to fight against discrimination. Thurgood began to work as a lawyer after he graduated. He got a job at the NAACP. This is short for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The NAACP works to improve the lives of African Americans. It is a civil rights group. Civil rights help everyone be treated equally. The University of Maryland rejected another African American, and Thurgood, now a lawyer, sued the school and won the case. Black people now had the chance to study in any school. Thurgood fought discrimination around the country using the law. Soon, he had to appear before the Supreme Court. In 1954, at the Supreme Court, he appeared as Linda Brown's lawyer. She was from Kansas. She had to travel a long way to an African American-only elementary school because she could not go to the one near her house, as it was for whites only. Thurgood told the Supreme Court that school leaders had no right to force black people to go to separate schools. The Supreme Court judges listened to both sides. They decided that Thurgood was right. They changed the law for the United States. Public schools were no longer separate. This case helped the battle for equal rights. But segregation in public places still continued. Segregation meant keeping blacks and whites separate. There were still separate bathrooms and water fountains. Some people wanted to change these laws. They made demonstrations by marching in public places. Yet some leaders closed schools instead of letting black students in. Thurgood had more work to do. Thurgood appeared in front of the Supreme Court more times than anyone else. 19 times. He won 14 of his cases. President John F. Kennedy was impressed. In 1961, Thurgood began to work for the Congress. In 1967, Thurgood made history. President Lyndon Johnson appointed him a Supreme Court justice. He was the first African American justice. Thurgood never stopped fighting against prejudice and discrimination. He always defended people's civil rights. He served as justice for 24 years. He retired in 1991 and died in 1993. He is honored with many memorials, and even in 2006, Baltimore's airport was named after him. Rigoberta Menchú is an indigenous political activist from Guatemala. She was born on January 9, 1959. As her family were not considered citizens, the government did not protect them. Her father, Vicente Menchú, was a member of the guerrilla movement, Guerrilla Army of the Poor. He died in 1980. Rigoberta decided to fight against the government and defend indigenous people's rights. In 1981, to protect herself, she had to run away from Guatemala to Mexico. While she lived abroad, she co-founded the United Republic of Guatemalan Opposition. Then she wrote a book about her life, and it was such an extraordinary work that it made her become a hero. She defended human rights violations committed by the Guatemalan armed forces during civil war. In 1992, she received the Nobel Peace Prize. Since 1996, she has joined Peace Jam, which is an organization that promotes and encourages young leaders to defend civil rights. In 1998, she got the Prince of Asturias Award. In 2006, Menchú was one of the founders of the Nobel Women's Initiative to work for peace with justice and equality. On 12 February 2007, Menchú created an indigenous political party called Encuentro por Guatemala. She stood in the 2007 presidential election, but did not win. These two people are not the only ones that have fought for equal rights. Martin Luther King Jr. is another man to learn about. Why is it important to fight for equal rights? Because we are all equal. We should look after each other. We all deserve equal opportunities.
All right, so how did you guys do with the awesome reader information? Did you like it? After reading about these two people that fought a long time against discrimination, okay, it is important that you guys learn nowadays not to discriminate, okay? It doesn't matter who the person is, okay, and where they come from. It is important to not discriminate, okay? Now let's watch this video about discrimination.
Jamal is a boy who lives in a poor neighborhood. He has a friend named Kevin who lives in a wealthy neighborhood. All of Jamal's neighbors are African American, and all of Kevin's neighbors are white. Because Jamal's school district is mostly funded by property taxes, his school is not very well funded. His classrooms are overcrowded, his teachers are underpaid, and he doesn't have access to high-quality tutors or extracurricular activities. Kevin's school district is also funded by property taxes, so his school is very well funded. His classrooms are never crowded, his teachers are very well paid, and he has access to high-quality tutors and lots of extracurricular activities. Kevin and Jamal live only a few streets away from each other. So how come they're growing up in such different worlds with such different opportunities for success? The answer has to do with America's history of systemic racism. To understand it better, let's look at what life was like for Kevin and Jamal's grandparents. Decades after the Civil War, many government agencies started to draw maps dividing cities into sections that were either desirable or undesirable for investment. This practice was called redlining, and it usually blocked off entire black neighborhoods from access to private and public investment. Banks and insurance companies used these maps for decades to deny black people loans and other services based purely on race. Historically speaking, owning a home and getting a college education is the easiest way for an American family to build wealth. But when Jamal's grandparents wanted to buy a house, the banks refused because they lived in a neighborhood that was redlined. So Jamal's grandparents were not able to buy a home, and because colleges could prevent them from attending through legal segregation, their options for higher education were really scarce. Kevin's grandparents, on the other hand, got a low-interest loan to buy their first house and got accepted into a handful of top universities, which traditionally only accepted white students. This opened up a wealth of opportunities that they were able to pass on to their kids and grandkids. Even as late as the 1980s, an investigation into the Atlanta real estate market showed that banks were more willing to lend to low-income white families than to middle or upper-income African American families. As a result, today, for every $100 of wealth held by a white family, black families have $5.04. A 2017 study confirms that redlining is still affecting home values in major cities like Chicago today. This explains how Kevin and Jamal inherited vastly different circumstances. Unfortunately, the story doesn't end there. A big part of systemic racism is implicit bias. These are prejudices in society that people are not aware that they have. Let's go back to Kevin and Jamal. Against all odds, Jamal manages to be the only student from his high school to get accepted into a great university, the same one that Kevin and his high school friends are attending. But after Kevin and Jamal both graduate, Jamal notices that his resume isn't drawing as much interest as Kevin's, even though they graduated from the same program with the exact same GPA. Unfortunately for Jamal, studies show that resumes with white-sounding names get twice as many callbacks as identical resumes with black-sounding names. Implicit bias is one of the reasons why the black unemployment rate is twice the rate of white unemployment, even among college graduates today. You can see evidence of systemic racism in every area of life. The disparities in family wealth, incarceration rates, political representation, and education are all examples of systemic racism. Unfortunately, the biggest challenge with systemic racism is that there's no single person or entity responsible for it, which makes it very hard to solve. So what can you do? The first thing you can do is work towards becoming more aware of your own implicit biases. What are some prejudices that you might hold that you're not aware of? Second, let's acknowledge that the consequences of slavery and Jim Crow laws are still affecting access to opportunity today. As a result, we should support systemic changes that create more equal opportunities for everyone. Increasing public school funding and making it independent from property taxes would be a great start, so that poor and wealthy districts can receive equal access to resources. Systemic problems require systemic solutions. Luckily, we're all part of the system, which means that we all have a role to play in making it better. Peace.
Alright, going back to the topic, here we have the keywords. Wasn't it interesting, all the information that we have just received as well as the video? Yes, unfortunately there is a lot of discrimination everywhere, and now we are learning more about it, and now we are conscious of how bad it is. Okay, so the keywords for today are accomplishments. What is an accomplishment? Okay, something that has been achieved successfully. For example, when you guys were in second grade, you accomplished to pass to third grade. Okay, you accomplished that that activity there. You passed from second to third grade. What is discrimination? And we already went over what discrimination was. We watched a video. Now we have a clear idea of what it is. Let me read the definition. The unjust treatment of different categories of people or things, especially on the grounds of race or sex. Okay, because I am a girl or because I am a woman, maybe I won't get a job. Or maybe because I am black, I won't get a job. Okay, that is discrimination. When you discriminate somebody by the gender or by the color. Human rights. What are the human rights? Okay, human rights are the basic rights and freedom that belong to every person in the world from the moment that they are born to the moment that they die. Okay, that is human rights. The basic rights, the right to eat, the right to have a house, okay? You got the right to have education, the right to go to the doctor, okay? Just the basic rights. Fighting. What is fighting? A way of confronting or struggle. Okay, when you confront someone, okay, it's that you're trying to clear out what the problem is. What is the problem? Okay, you're trying to solve it. You fight against it. Okay. Now, what is equality? Equality is the state of being equal, especially in the rights and opportunities. Remember that Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King fought for equality between white and black people. Okay, so equality means the same. Okay. Then we got university. What is university? And one day you guys will go to university. And university is an institution of a higher education and research with awards and research, which awards with academic degrees. When you go to university, when you finish your university studies, you guys receive an academic degree, okay, which is a college degree, okay, university in this case. All right, guys, now let's begin by opening your book to page 68, and that is the page we're going to be working with today. This is page 68. You guys ready? Okay, let's begin. Here in page 68, we got, here it says, read the battle for equal rights in your awesome reader. We finished with that. Now it says, look at the words below. Brainstorm other words, names, and events that relate to each word, okay? We have human rights, discrimination, and equality. What are some people or things, okay, or events that relate to these topics here? I'm going to leave you guys for this activity here. This is going to be activity number 1. I'm going to leave you guys for 10 minutes for you to complete activity number 1, okay? You're going to relate people. For example, human rights. Who fought for human rights? Very good. Human rights, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King fought for human rights. So I'm going to write his name there, okay? Now, equality. Who fought for equality? Okay, you guys are going to think of the people that we have mentioned during these weeks. Remember that Rosa Parks was one, okay? Martin Luther King was one. Rigoberta Menchú was one, okay? Thurgood was another one. So please try to remember as many names and actions that they did to participate during these words that we have here. Then in activity number 2 says, have you ever seen or read about an event or situation where human rights were not respected? You guys are going to write yes or no, and you're going to write how did you feel, if you feel good about it or if you feel sad about it. How did you feel at the moment, okay, that this happened? Okay, this is page 68. I'll leave you guys for 10 minutes to complete this activity that we have here. guys, now we're going to check page 68 and we're going to check and see how did you guys do remembering the pages that we have been working with well the days before. Okay, so now the human rights. And talking about human rights means that the rights that we all have as humans, okay, from the day that we are born to the day that we die. What is a person or who is related to human rights here? I mentioned one before going to work on this page. Very good. I say Martin Luther King, correct? Okay, so Mr. King was one of the ones that fought for human rights. Now, who fought for discrimination? Who fought against discrimination? Who was that person that that it was mentioned in that? Do you remember in the key that we mentioned a woman that fought against discrimination? Very good, Rosa Parks. Now, talking about equality, who fought for equality? I would like to say both of them, all right? So Martin Luther King fought for equality, Rosa Parks, and equality between who? White and black people, correct? All right, so these words or these people are related to these words that we have here, as well as the equality word, which means that white and blacks could have the same rights, okay, as everybody. Okay, now let's continue here with the next page. This is page 69, and here it says the battle for equal rights. Tell the story of two important leaders in history that fought for human rights. Get into pairs and add your notes about each leader, background, and their accomplishment. Here we have Thurgood Marshall and we also have Rigoberta Menchú, okay? These two people fought for equal rights and they change a little bit of history, okay, by doing that. Now, you're going to think about these people. For example, Thurgood Marshall, what is something that he did, important things that he did, okay, to change the way the things were going on in the United States. Then Rigoberta Menchú, what was something that she did to change the things that were going on in Guatemala? Now you're going to write details about it, remembering or trying to remember about the awesome reader information. All right, then it says fight for human rights. What is something that, okay, you guys know about human rights, okay? Human rights in my community. What are the rights that we have as a community, okay, or in the community that you guys live? For example, one of the rights I have is to have electricity, to have water, okay? In my community, I have the right to participate in activities that they do here in my community. Discrimination in my society. What are some discrimination points that you can find in society? And you can do this with the help of an adult. If you have a parent with you, you can ask him what discrimination you think or they think they see here in our society. Okay, so Thurgood Marshall, what do you know about him? Rigoberta Menchú, what do you know about her and the things that they did to change history? After that, in activity number 2 says, in pairs discuss 2 ways to stop discrimination in your community. How can you stop discrimination in your community? Okay, and integrate all the children. Share your suggestions with the class. Okay, so we have discrimination. Yes, we do have it. Now, I'm going to ask you guys to do this activity number 3. Okay, you only have to do activity number 3 written. Activity number 4 is just for you guys to think about it. Okay, I would like you guys to reflect on that question that we have there. And activity number 3, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to write important things or things that you guys know about these people and these actions. All right, let's begin. 5 minutes, guys. Now we're going to do together page 70, and here the question is, number 1, when and where was Thurgood Marshall born? Was he Mexican? Where was he born? He was born in 19 what? Very good. He was born in 1908. Okay. In where? In Baltimore, correct? Baltimore, Maryland. All right, very good. So far, so good. Did black people have the same rights as white people at the time? Yes or no? No, they did not. No, they didn't. They were not allowed to drink in the same places. They were not allowed to eat in the same places. They were not allowed to do anything as white people did, especially in the buses, right? Okay, the next question says, why couldn't Thurgood go to university in Maryland? Do you remember that there was a segregation for specific color? Yes, because it was, it was for white people only. Okay, they couldn't, black people couldn't go to school. Now, what does NAACP mean? National Association for Advancement of Colored People. Very good. So it's National Association, okay, for the advance, okay, of colored people. All right, and the last question says, how did Thurgood Marshall help African American? Very good. He fought for equal rights, okay, for blacks. For blacks. Remember that he fought for people to go to school, the same schools as white people, okay, so he fought for that. Now, number 2 says, after reading the first part of the battle of for equal rights, which write 3 situations Thurgood Marshall faced that inspired him to fight for civil rights. There was one situation when he was young that he lived himself. After that, there was another situation with a lady. And finally, there was a situation with a child, with a little girl. Write them down, specify what were the situations and how did he feel. All right, on this page here says, we're going to do it together as well. This is page 71. It says, read the statements. Show where the fact belongs on the timeline by writing the number in the box above the date. So we have to first check and see what the information is. Congress hired Thurgood. Thurgood retired. Thurgood defended Linda Brown. Thurgood was born. Baltimore's airport was named after Thurgood. Thurgood was nominated as a Supreme Court of Justice. Thurgood graduated from high school. Now, according to Thurgood's life, which one is the first fact about him? Very good. So the first thing we have to put, Thurgood was born. What happened next? Thurgood graduated from high school, remember? Then what happened? Thurgood couldn't go to school in a white school, so he studied in another school. And he defended, after he finished, Linda Brown. In 1961, Thurgood was hired by the Congress. After that, what happened? Very good. In 1967, Thurgood was nominated as the Supreme Court of Justice. And finally, in 1991, Thurgood retired. Very good. He retired to another place. And finally, in 2006, Thurgood, Baltimore's airport was named after Thurgood. So he was an important man. So he, as a reward, they named an airport after him. All right, number 5. In pairs, read the biography about Latin American who fought for human rights. On the right, write 6 important dates and facts about their lives. Then draw a timeline below at the dates and facts. Okay. Remember about this girl? Her name was Roberta Machu. Okay, you're going to write the information about her, this Latin American. What were 6 things that happened to her? 6 important things that happened in her life. Okay, you're going to write them down. And after you guys write it down, you guys are going to write a timeline just like this one here. Okay, with the events. Okay, so you're going to use the Awesome Reader story to complete this information here. You need the Awesome Reader story, okay, to complete the facts and the timeline. Hey guys, I would like to tell you an important news. We're about to go back to school, and that means that we're going to see each other very soon. Now, before seeing each other, we need to take care of some things. And here I've got safe back to school tips. All right, these are the things that you can do in school. The first thing you need to do is remember to keep 1 meter distance, okay, from your classmates. That means that you are not allowed to stay close together, okay, to talk. You have to stay back 1 meter distance from adults, from the people in the school, okay. Everybody that works in school, even your classmates, you have to stay 1 meter away. The next thing you must do is wash your hands more than once a day. That means you can wash your hands 5 to 6 times during the day. I will be giving you guys permission to wash your hands daily, okay? And make sure that you wash them properly. I'm going to leave here a video for you guys to watch, and make sure that you wash your hands and learn how to wash your hands in the proper way. Remember that we need and we must wash our hands when you guys cough and you cannot use your hands when you guys are coughing. So you must use, well, to cough you must use a tissue that later on I'm going to explain to you. And when you go to the bathroom, you need to wash your hands, as well as when you guys are about to take your lunch, okay, you must wash your hands. So it is very important, this part. As I said, I'll leave you guys a video so that you guys learn how to wash your hands in a proper way. Wet your hands with water. Make sure that you wet them fine. Put some soap on your hands. Scrub the palms of your hands together. Scrub the palm on top of your left hand and your left palm on your right hand. Make sure that you scrub your fingers as well. Wash your thumbs in both hands. Scrub your hands in circle. Make sure that you scrub as well your fingers for both hands. Rise Rinse up your hands with lots of water. Dry it up with a towel. Use the same towel to close the sink. And there you go. Now, the other thing you guys need to do is cough and sneeze into your elbow. This is your elbow here. Now, you're going to cough inside of your elbow. That means you guys are going to do this to cough. When you cough, you're going to cough inside of your elbow, okay, to protect yourself and of course to protect your classmates. All right, now the tissues. If you feel like you want to use a tissue, a paper tissue, okay, only one time, and you must dispose it into the trash bin. That means I'm only going to use it one time, the tissue. I cannot say, okay, it's still good, I'm going to use it next time. No, it's not possible. You have to use the tissue, and after you guys use it, we put it in the trash and you go to wash your hands. The next thing is that you have to consider wearing a mask. And that means that during the day in school, you must wear it, okay? I'm going to be supervising that you guys wear your mask with you all the time, okay? I know it can get very comfortable maybe during the day, but it is better for us to stay protected, okay? Because we want to stay healthy, okay? And please wear your mask all the time. All right, and I'm going to ask you guys to always keep your space clean. Make sure that everything is in your backpack. The things that you guys are not using must stay in your backpack, okay? You're only going to use a few things while working in the classroom so that you guys stay protected, okay? Keep your things organized, okay? Nothing on the floor, okay? There could not be anything on the floor, so everything must be packed up and organized. Now we're going to the don'ts, the things that you must not do, okay? And this is, don't shake hands and hugs. I know that it has been a long time that we haven't seen each other, but you cannot hug your classmates, neither shake hands. It's not going to be possible because we have to protect ourselves, okay? So no huggings, okay? Just for the moment, okay? Do not touch your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. It is completely prohibited. You cannot touch your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. Remember that coronavirus can get into your system by touching with your fingers, okay? If they already have the virus, if you touch your mouth, your nose, or your eyes, you can get the virus. Now, another thing you must avoid, and this is the reason I have it in red color, is because I would like to invite you guys to avoid all type of crowdness. That means that you are going to avoid crowded spaces, okay? Every time you see more than 3 people in a line, or every time you see more than 3 people in the bathroom, avoid that stuff, okay? You cannot be in a crowd, okay, because you are in risk. Another thing I would like to ask you guys is to avoid touching the classroom surface, okay? Do not touch the walls, do not touch the board, okay? Anything that has to do with the classroom or even with the school, okay? To prevent you guys from getting sick or getting harmed, okay? So do not touch anything from the classroom, neither from school. And another important one is, if you are ill, if you feel fever, if you have a really bad headache that you cannot stand, you must stay at home, okay? Even if it's a flu, you must stay at home. This is going to prevent getting sickness, okay? So if you are ill, you must stay at home. And this is very simple. Just tell your mommy to take your temperature if you feel sick, if your throat hurts, if you got the temperature, okay? Just, mommy, can you take the temperature for me? Your mom is going to check your temperature and see if everything is right. After that, that's pretty much all we have to do to take care and to protect yourself and the loved ones, okay, from coronavirus. Remember that this virus is very harmful for you guys and for your family as well. If you guys protect yourselves, you're going to protect your family members as well. So that is the reason we must protect each other, and we must protect our classmates, teachers, and family, okay? Now, it is very simple. I really hope that this information was reliable and at the same time something for you guys to learn how to take care of yourself in school, because we're going back to school in a very few days. I am very happy and excited about it, but before that happens, we need to take care and know how to take care of ourselves and our classmates as well. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching and for your attention. If you need to play this video back, please play it back so that way you guys have an idea of what to do. And if you need to repeat it more than once, that's perfectly fine. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.